Welcome to the Long Take Review, where four college professors talk film, providing insight, not assigning homework. I'm your host, Jen Bankard, and I'm here with four big dreamers. First, he has a purpose. It's PT McNiff. How's it going, PT?
I wouldn't be here trying to involve you in something that I didn't believe in. And I know it's hard to believe, but this game fills stadiums overseas. And it's only a matter of time before it fills stadiums in the United States too, before I'm staring at you from the cover of a Wheaties box. I'm doing great, Jen. How are you?
I'm doing great. Feeling inspired already. And everything in his life is falling apart, but he's going to figure it out. It's Greg Cass. How's it going, Greg?
I give you meaning, and he gives you money. I'm good, Jen. How are you? I forgot I was supposed to also answer the question. Hi, Jen. Nice to see you. Happy New Year, Jen.
Happy New Year. I'm wondering who the he in that is. We have more than a few candidates today. And failure doesn't even enter his consciousness. It's Antonio Elefano. How are you doing, Antonio?
I'm Hitler's worst nightmare, and I'm doing great, Jen.
Well, good for you for using that joke. I wanted to actually use that and then I was like, well, it might be problematic for a number of reasons. So I stayed away. I chickened out. But so thank you for bringing that in. It's good.
Can I offer my abandoned joke was that PT just shared some honey with me. So anyway,
yes.
Okay. And we've got one more. Last but not least, it's only a matter of time before I'm staring at him on the cover of Wheaties box. Sorry, PT. Returning and beloved guest, Hasib Hossain. How's it going, Hasib?
I was born in 1601. I'm a vampire. I've been around forever. I've met many Marty Mousers over the centuries. Some of them crossed me, some of them weren't straight. They weren't honest. And those are the ones that are still here. You go out and win that game, you're going to be here forever, too. And you'll never be happy. You will never be happy. Happy New Year, Jen.
I want to be happy. I don't want to be unhappy forever. Welcome back, Hasib. It's really great to have you. Now that we have thoroughly confused all of our listeners with these references, I should say that those were all references to the film we are here to review today, Josh Safdie's Marty Supreme, starring Timothée Chalamet, Gwyneth Paltrow, Odessa Azion, and a seemingly endless series of famous and or obscure faces in tons of smaller roles, so I can't name them all. The period sports drama tells the unrelentingly frenetic story of Marty Mauser, a young American table tennis player determined to become the best in the world. The film's in theaters now, and it will be for some time. Usually we like to sort of say it is going to be on HBO Max eventually because it's an A24 film. They have a deal with each other. But I wouldn't hold your breath. If you are interested in seeing this movie, you got to go to the theaters probably because it's going to be at least until after the Oscars, I would guess, before it's on streaming. And if you are listening to us for the first time, we'll have a spoiler-free section designed for those who have not yet seen the film. And then, with a very clear alert, we will shift into spoiler mode for the rest of the show. PT, if listeners think we're big boys who step up after listening to this episode, what can they do?
If you think that we have the touch, then please follow the Long Take Review wherever you get your podcast. We host the feed on Jen's Substack at thelongtake.substack.com. But you can also find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Overcast, YouTube, and many more. Wherever you listen, you can find us there. You can also follow us on social media. We are on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at The Long Take Review. We are also on Letterboxd. You can follow the account at LTRpod, or you can search for the hashtag LTRpod to see what each of us individually has been watching. Jen?
Thanks, PT. So, as usual, we'll start with the short take. What was everyone's general reaction to Marty Supreme? We'll have a guest co-host go first. Hasib, kick us off.
I thought it was awesome. I loved it. I am a Safdie brothers mark from the jump. Like ever since I saw Good Times, I've just been all about their frenetic pace in their editing in their movies. And I found out this whole time it was Josh Safdie that was behind it all.
Wah, wah.
Sorry, Benny. But
he's not wrong.
Yeah.
You're not the only one who said that either.
Yeah.
All right. Who's next?
I'll go. The classic American like sports story aligns with the classic American dream narrative. Even like the lowliest of underdogs can persevere and rise above with like pluck and determination and belief in themselves. So Marty Supreme takes that American archetype and gives us like a dazzling, dizzying, sociopathic iteration of him. And I too thought it was awesome. I thought through like just the most skillful writing, directing, and acting, Safdie and Timothée Chalamet somehow make Marty someone we both recognize as a destructive narcissist and someone we still root for despite and maybe honestly because of his obvious flaws. It's just this wild odyssey of bad decisions, but with someone so compelling at its center that I couldn't wait to see what happened next, even while my heart broke for everyone Marty stiffed along the way. What did you all think?
Yeah, this movie is great. Irrational Confidence Guy, the movie. It's absolutely like super fun all the way around. And just, we're going to talk a lot about how great Timothée Chalamet is in this movie. We're going to talk a lot about how great the main supporting cast is. But that like deep bench of like random people who show up, and like some of them are like, oh, that's that famous guy, or that's that person from that thing. And there's also some people that I didn't recognize who maybe I should. Maybe other people will know who they are. But just like looking at the cast list is wild. And, you know, that's something that the Safdies are always so good at like packing out, especially in the New York scenes, but, you know, in any part of a movie, this roster of faces and this roster of performances. And yeah, I think this is fascinating. It's fascinating as a period piece, which we'll get into, which I know the Safdies haven't done before. So it's really interesting to sort of have, you know, this view from 2020 of the early 1950s with a couple of other lenses put in between, which we can get into. But Greg, what did you think?
I thought they looked like they were having a good time making this movie. No, I was trying to demystify
Greg,
that.
That's what you say when you're trying to politely say you don't like something. What's going on?
Because it was an absolute five banger. It was so good, and I loved every frame of this. So the honest answer is that, you know, members of this podcast have given me a lot of flack for being an A24 bro. First of all, how dare you? Second of all, Jen, welcome to A24 Close Friends. Enjoy the membership.
I can't believe you scammed me into doing that.
So, but it actually has been a little bit of a tough year for A24, right? Like they've missed quite a bit this year. And we could go through many titles. There've been some good movies, but you know, it's been like, oh wow, I made part of my identity being a film bro for this studio that's now missing more than it's hitting. So it's really great that they closed out the year on a high note, which I think this is actually our second movie of the year that I would determine is like a stone cold American classic. Like you will see clips of this movie in the Oscars for many years to come. No Battle After Another being the first, and then this one, which I don't know that I was expecting to think that highly of it, but I will co-sign the word awesome, and I will just say that, you know, that feeling in the movie theater where you have absolutely no clue what is going to unfold is so rare these days. So it's so delicious when it happens to this extreme. And then you know, I was picturing Antonio like ducked behind his theater chair, like looking but not looking, and that's exactly how I felt. And you know, I will say much more, but absolutely endorsement. PT and Antonio went 4.5 stars, which we need to have some discussion about whether they can continue on this podcast, because this is a 5-star movie.
I would agree. I also gave it, let the record show, I logged this movie in last, probably, but I did give it 5 stars. I fell in love with this movie in a way that I really was not prepared for. It really took me by surprise. I knew it was going to probably be good, but I didn't know that I would like it as much as I did. And part of that, I think, is because the only other Safdie film I've seen is Uncut Gems, which is an amazing film, and I really admired it. But I was very stressed out and worried the whole time. And there was a fair amount of that with this, but it's bookended with sort of, or kind of like, it's packaged with so much heart and like uplift that that's not like that defines the whole movie, but I feel like for me that was just the perfect blend in terms of the tone and kind of what the movie, the scale of the movie, and all that sort of stuff. I feel like it was a big leveling up for Josh Safdie for me, in a way that made this one of my favorite movies of the year, probably. And Timothée Chalamet, I think he is probably like 75% of why this movie is amazing. And his performance is just so, he just gives himself completely over to this character. And there is probably, I've heard a lot of critics talk about how there is a little bit of overlap we could sort of identify between his persona as a movie star and sort of the character of Marty Mauser, right? So that's not a coincidence necessarily that he's able to give himself over to this role. But I do think that it's just like he's just all in a way that makes everything work. And it's also really funny. I laughed a lot during this. It's like a really good sports movie, but then also like Uncut Gems, like a very stressful, like terrible things are happening. When is it going to stop? Kind of thriller. And it's got it all, basically. You know, I think I've already kind of taken us into the recommendation algorithm in which we establish the audience of a film. Because I one of my questions that I had that I want us to talk about is like, how do we orient this film in relationship to other Safdie brothers movies? For those of you who have seen more of them, how does this hit different than those other movies, do you think? And especially for audiences, like if people didn't like Uncut Gems, are they going to like this movie still?
I think they'll like it more, honestly, because like you said before, there's a level of optimism in this that don't exist in their previous movies. I don't know if I'm delving into spoiler territory here or not, but yeah, there's a little bit more of a upbeat vibe, especially near the end. So I would say, if you like to feel anxious, but not too anxious, then yeah, this might be the movie that you might want to see out of all of their movies. Yeah.
I do think there is something about it being in the early 50s instead of, the other Safdie movies, because they all were made before the pandemic, are, in the 2010s. And that's just a different time period. And there's something about like, I don't know, there's something about the distance combined with there is more optimism, but it is also some of these themes that I think we're going to be picking apart about the post-war American dream and kind of energy and what that means to sort of be striving and trying to get out of the conditions that maybe you don't like, and it happening in a context where it feels like that's possible. Whereas I think a lot of the Safdie movies are like, I'm trying to get out of the context that I'm in. And it's like, yeah, you can't. Like, there's actually no way you're going to ever do that. And so, I think that if you saw Safdie Brothers movies and you liked them, you'll like this movie. If you saw a Safdie Brothers movie and you were like, I don't like that because it was too bleak and too stressful, if it's the bleakness, you might be able to like this. If it's the stressful part, I don't know. Yeah, you might still have a problem. But there's something, with all due respect to Robert Pattinson from Good Time and Adam Sandler in Uncut Gems, like Timothée Chalamet is giving like a movie star performance in this movie that might still lift it up and over. And I think, the box office results have been because Chalamet is out there and he's in all these weird pockets of society and culture, talking to people and getting them excited about a movie. So, I think that if you're a fan of Chalamet, you're already in on seeing it. But even if you're not certain about Safdie, you're not certain about Chalamet, I think this movie will win you over, unless you don't like being stressed out in a movie. And then that might be a problem, because this movie is designed not maybe not to the level of Uncut Gems or Good Time, but it's still designed to make you stressed.
Yeah, I would say the second act is the closest you get to Uncut Gems level of watching characters make terrible decisions and having to just sit there and take it when you know it's not going to work out. But yeah, otherwise I do think that, yeah, this has like a kind of more, Greg said it earlier, I think like a kind of a classic American film kind of feel to it, something that is going to stand the test of time, that is a little bit more mainstream and is a little bit more kind of like grander in the scale, in a way that I think will appeal to a lot more people. Other thoughts about...
Sorry, Adam Sandler is crying somewhere right now because you don't think he's a classic American figure.
I mean, he is, but for other reasons.
Jen just canceled our Jay Kelly episode, right, with that comment, I'm pretty sure. So I'm not going to pretend to be a Safdie Brothers expert because I saw Smashing Machine and I saw Uncut Gems like within the last year and a half, like way after the fact. I'm very sorry, no disrespect intended. The kind of weird comparison I will get, have a seat. I was watching a TV show recently, which is a rewatch of Mad Men, which I love Mad Men. And there's something very similar tonally between the two in this weird kind of, I think PT said it, like the post-war moment we don't really look at that often, right? We love the American narratives around World War II, and then we love the 60s, and we just kind of skip this decade in the middle. And Mad Men picks up at the start of the 60s, but they're still very much dealing with the war. There are many times where a character will say something super racist, like about the Japanese, because they have like lingering feelings about, you know, the war. And it's just kind of this really wonderful time period we often overlook. And so I happened to be doing that rewatch, and when I went to see Marty Supreme, I'm like, oh, I'm just kind of living in this kind of re-examination of those dominant narratives and what's really going on there and what we should have been talking about instead of not.
Also, if you like a classic New York movie, this movie is so New York.
I was going to say that, you know, we would have had you on for this episode anyway, but I was thinking this morning, hey, wait a minute. None of us are from New York or live in New York. I mean, apparently PT lived there for a brief period, which I still don't believe. But
that was when his name was Dick Whitman, I think. But yes.
Any other sort of recommendation algorithm comparisons or advice we want to give to people other than just like get out there, listen to Timothée Chalamet and get your butt in a movie theater seat?
Strong endorsement of the theater. Just want to throw in there, right? Like, don't wait for streaming. It was a party, and my theater was packed. It was like only front row seats available for like a week around here, which is great to see. Sorry, Antonio.
Oh, no, it's okay. So I saw this in Detroit, Michigan, with my in-laws, and I actually took like a lot of my in-laws to this movie, and a lot of them hadn't seen a movie in like months, and one of them for like years. And so. So this is, I was a little concerned, but also it was like, I want to watch this movie and I don't care. Like I bought the tickets. I was like, I've chosen, this is the only thing I'm going to see. And I will say that like my wife and I were the most enthusiastic leaving the theater, and everyone else was like a little bit more lukewarm on it. And I think it was because, you know, we're talking about this as being like an uplifting, you know, whatever. I think that for some people, this is a little edgier than what they would expect from, again, that sort of like classic sports movie. And so they found the sort of relentlessness of like just like the bad decisions and then the consequences of those bad decisions to be a little bit repetitive for them. I, on the other hand, I think all of us was so sort of like delighted by how certain patterns in Marty's behavior still manifested themselves in really exciting and novel ways that I happily moved through the film. But I left the theater sort of understanding, like feeling like, oh, I liked this best, and that's okay. So I guess I would just add that to the algorithm. The other thing is like Marty. We're going to talk about Marty. I love Marty, but I think that some people are going to have differing opinions on how much they can take of Marty. I was trying to think of like, well, what's a difficult difficult sports figure center movie, whatever. And I thought back to Jen's favorite movie from a few years ago, Naiad, which is.
How dare you compare this to that? Oh my gosh.
No, obviously that is a much lesser movie, but I remember having conversations about how just like sheerly unlikable she was, and how all the supporting characters, like Jodie Foster's character, we all loved her, but what a nightmare, Diana Naiad, right? And I think that for some people, they'll look at Marty Mauser and just be like, what a nightmare of a human being. Again, this is a better movie, and I think whatever. And that was mostly to rile up Jen, but yeah.
Mission accomplished. Ugh.
I do think, Antonio, based on what you were saying, like while you were saying, oh, think about a movie where the main character is like sort of abrasive, not a sports movie, but for some reason I immediately jumped to Benjamin Braddock from The Graduate and Dustin Hoffman as kind of like like in a much more passive California way of just sort of like, I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my life, but like making a series of terrible decisions and also not really thinking about the consequences of what those will be until suddenly facing them. So I think that there's something there. I will note to Antonio's point, opening his own little lore about his Detroit side. But that, you know, thinking about other people is, I waited to see this because we're sort of back and forth about whether Jasmine wanted to go. She's very over Timothée Chalamet as a public figure. And she's just like, I don't think I can watch a movie with him. I don't think I can spend time. I think he's very annoying. And I think that if you feel that way, you're not going to have your mind changed by this movie, because the whole point of like Marty in this movie is he's being very abrasive.
My Knicks fandom will not allow that. If my girlfriend ever told me that, I'd be like, but he's like the second in line to Spike Lee. We gotta support this guy no matter what. All right.
I mean, but what you're saying is making me
third
not
in line
like
behind Ben Stiller and Spike Lee. But yeah,
yeah. What you're saying is making me not like Timothée Chalamet. So tread carefully
Yeah,
for people outside the metro area.
It's like, Hasib, I said earlier, I was trying to say it politely, but you are the token New Yorker on this call. So,
oh boy.
All right. Well, are we? I guess my last thing too is that if you are someone who really loves when music in movies is working, I can't believe I'm the one that's bringing this up and not like PT, but
I've got plenty for later.
The needle drop. Okay, I know, but I'm just teasing it now. Like the needle drops and the score work in such perfect harmony, and then work so perfectly with the film, and creates this like weird. Like not tension, but juxtaposition with the different time periods. And I'm not going to kind of specify because that could be I don't know. If you see the trailer, then you know what I'm talking about. But that just I've never really seen before in a movie done quite like this. And I really loved it. And it added so much to the whole experience. So I would say that if we haven't sold you on this thus far, but you like music, maybe just ignore all your instincts and go see it anyway. But
I think I alluded to this on Wake Up Dead Man. I listened to a commentary one time with Ryan Johnson, and he said he used to have to sweep up the popcorn in a local movie theater, and so he always puts a really great song over his opening credits just for the ushers sweeping up the popcorn. This movie absolutely blew anything he's done out of the water. Like nobody left their seats in my theater, and we were all just like vibing in the moment. It was really awesome. And you know how can you not leave like high on life?
Amazing. All right. I think we are ready for spoiler mode. We've exhausted and danced around spoilers long enough. So if you have not yet seen Marty Supreme, Christmas Day, and which like Timothée Chalamet has not uttered the words Marty Supreme without following it with Christmas Day. It's very funny. But if you haven't seen the movie yet and you don't want it spoiled, we are about to go into spoiler mode. So turn back now. Rejoin us for the rest of the conversation after you've seen the movie. Some good air sacs from Hasib. Okay, so very fitting for this movie, I feel like. So I want to start with actually Hasib's opening quote, because I just feel like we need some basic clarification on what this quote means. And he said it earlier, so I guess I don't have to repeat it. But basically, the Rockwell character confesses seemingly to Marty Mauser that he's a vampire. What was everyone's reaction to that? And how literal as opposed to figurative is this statement? I'm genuinely asking that. That's not a fishing for like deep thoughts. I just really need to know.
I mean, it's late enough in the movie. We're 2 hours and like a dozen minutes into the movie, and we're at the precipice of the end of this. What's clearly the final ping pong match, table tennis match. So I was like, well, he doesn't mean that. Like that's just a thing that he's saying. It's like a weird threat. And it was odd, but it was also, I didn't mind it because in character, I was like, oh, this is the kind of guy who gets flustered when anything doesn't go his way. And so he'll say something crazy like that just to try to get back on the the high power position of a conversation, and it doesn't really go anywhere. There is a story behind it that is like a behind the scenes thing, which I can share because I read this article. But if anyone else wants to share in the moment reactions before I do that, that would be great.
I also took it figuratively. But along with what PT's saying about him just getting rattled and saying like a crazy thing, there is something really penetrating about what he says in that moment too. Like the worst thing you can tell a person like Marty Mauser is that he's not a person so much as a type of person, right? And while Marty believes in himself over everyone else, if like supposedly or striving to be great men are ever going to defer or at least listen, it's when another supposed great person speaks. And that's what Marty believes Milton to be. He won't abide him because that's not in his nature. But the ugly wisdom about like, you know, there have been many versions of you before and you're never going to be happy, that penetrates and forces Marty to reckon with the unpleasant thought that even getting everything he wants in the world may not be everything he needs to have a satisfied life. So I thought it was really interesting that this is the character that we had that sort of like pushes him to, I think, the ultimate final scene. Like that's what I sort of connected with. Because there's obviously like a change in Marty that we have at the end, and in tracing back how this happened, I think it starts in this moment when someone's sort of dressing him down, as opposed to like all these like normally in this kind of film, right? It's just it's something tender, or a love interest who does it. But I think it's this. I think it's like this guy saying like, I'm a vampire. I'm going to tell you like the worst thing that you could possibly hear, and that's actually what's gonna start the process of like, you know, building this shift, which I thought was kind of great.
And actually, his response is the nervous laughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is the other big scene with the two of them, is when he laughs. He's like, "Do you think that's funny?" He goes, "No, I just laugh when I'm nervous sometimes." Right? So, like, yeah, I think you're onto something in terms of it's hitting a nerve.
Well, in terms of the behind the scenes thing, so Kevin O'Leary, who plays Rockwell, is not an actor. He's the Shark Tank guy, and is just some dude who I guess wanted to be a photographer and then made money doing something else. And he was the Simon Cowell on Shark Tank. He's the jerk from Canada. And so Josh Safdie was like, we need someone to be a rich jerk, like, and I want it to be you. And so like wooed him into doing this. And now he's all into like, I can act now. And apparently he would just like make videos of himself in character, improvising stuff and send it to Josh Safdie. And this was one of the things he improvised. And Josh Safdie was like, oh, that's cool. I'm going to work that into the script. And he put it into the script. And then according to Kevin O'Leary, who apparently is unable to see the movie as not being about him. Like, I don't think this is a bit. Like, he is like, I don't really understand why people are rooting for Marty. He's a jerk because he treats me badly. And like, he doesn't understand that Marty could be the protagonist that people could root for. And he doesn't like the ending, which Antonio was referencing. And we're in spoiler mode, so we can say that like Marty flies back from this like Pyrrhic victory of an exhibition match to come back to New York and finally goes to see, goes to the hospital. And the end of the movie is him seeing his baby. Kevin O'Leary did not think that it was too redemptive. He wanted the Rachel to die in childbirth because he thinks that Marty should be sad. And he wanted the movie to end with him actually being a vampire and biting Marty, and claims that they had worked on the special effects for the teeth before Josh Safdie like said no. I don't think that's true. I think Kevin O'Leary is a crazy man who says things, or that Josh Safdie says like, yeah, man, you got it. Like whatever you want, we'll look into that before saying no right away. Cause he knows that's the best way to treat this person. But it was an improv that Kevin O'Leary did that Josh Safdie worked on. And separate from that, I do want to note that Kevin O'Leary wants him to really be a vampire and to bite Marty and curse him to immortality.
Okay.
It's actually the director's cut of Ella McKay, I think.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about that part. Anyway,
so I think I have a little whiplash because we're like, let's not spoil that Marty plays ping pong because we're treading carefully, and then it's like, let's talk about the vampire quote. Like we skipped so much movie in between. But Jen, you did your normal game, which is like, let's talk about the biggest.
Just go for it.
That's not a complaint. It's just like such a weird, like whiplashy thing. So
this movie is very long. We did skip over a lot. We'll go back. We'll go back.
So I would argue that I'm also bracketing PT's commentaries about Kevin O'Leary. Sounds like a guy who'd be fun to not ever hang out with, period. So I will just say that I interpreted that very much as being like this movie's turn towards late stage capitalism, right? Like that's the like moment where we realize he's telling us not the literal truth, but the figurative truth, which is that every time somebody of great power and influence arises in America, then they are always beholden to the ones pulling the purse strings, right? And or holding the purse strings? Holding. Do you hold or pull them? You hold them.
You hold
Jen?
them, I think.
What do you do with a purse?
I wouldn't know. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I mean, do purses have strings? Like what?
I don't
have
know.
a lot of questions
Anyway,
about this.
so
The strings
to
open
me,
it.
Some do.
Okay.
Anyway.
this was the moment where it's revealed that Marty not only is not going to win, but he can never win, right? You know, what's the Ocean's 11 quote? You play long enough, the house always wins, right? Like that's what he's revealing in this moment. And so I think it's a very kind of silly moment in the larger context, and that won't be the clip that gets played in future Oscars or anything like that. But I do think it's just a reminder that like all of the big rhetoric, you can print whatever you want on your orange ping pong balls. It's not about dreaming big in this country, right? Like the game is rigged and it always will be no matter what. And so I liked the moment. I just won't like continue to think about it too much more.
Yeah, just to piggyback off Greg and PT, the way I saw that speech, it was just a really, really rich dude who was not getting his way, and he was going to try to just rattle him. And picking Kevin O'Leary for this part was perfect because he's a really, really rich dude. And honestly, like, I would have been rattled too. Like, that was so specific. 1601. Where did he get that from? Why would he even pick 1601?
Honestly, that's the only reason I'm asking this as a question. Because I was like, that is so specific that implies that he's trying to tell the truth, or he's just really good at, I don't know. Yeah. Usually I have to tell students to be more specific. He's being too specific.
It was so specific.
Jen, did you want him to be a vampire? Is this why this was your leading question?
I mean, okay, so maybe yes. Sorry.
No.
Well, so to me, it sticks out as like, there's a lot of weird stuff in this movie, but to me, that stuck out as like by far the weirdest moment because it just seems so, like I did a double take in the theater. I was like, wait, did he just say he was a vampire? Like, and I had to think about it for a long time, be like, he's not actually a vampire, right? And I think it does work on a metaphorical level, but part of me was like, I wouldn't put it past this movie. Like, it seems plausible in the so comprehensive and unique world that Josh Safdie creates. Like, yes, it is a period piece, so it's technically based on like historical aesthetics and mood and context and all that sort of stuff. But to me, this almost felt like watching Dune in some ways, where I was like really sucked into Marty's world. And I felt like that based on the world that Safdie sets up, having Rockwell be actually a vampire didn't seem that weird to me once I thought about it for a while. But I'm glad you're bringing me back to reality. We have Sinners already. We don't need another vampire movie in the Oscar race, right?
I assume we were all Googling 1601 while Jen was talking, and I found like 5 things for the Dutch East India Company, so I'm going to just call it a W for capitalism.
Oh, okay, sure. That makes sense.
Completely non-destructive capitalist entities like the Dutch East India Company.
So I want to segue from something Greg had sort of started talking about earlier, this idea of capitalism and the system being rigged, because I think that definitely plays a huge part in terms of how we view Marty Mauser as a character. And there's a lot of discussion amongst critics about he's obviously, and Antonio in his short take actually mentioned this too, like he's so unlikable and yet we find him charming, and yet we're rooting for him. Some people actually are like just fully defending him. Other people are like, no, he's terrible, but somehow it's amusing watching him do terrible things, right? So like people are kind of all over the map in terms of how much they actually connect with or like Marty as a character? How much? I guess maybe it's the spectrum of, is he a hero to you or an anti-hero? But what I feel like, if you interlock that with the capitalism theme, he becomes a lot more complicated as a character. So I just wanted to start with how much do you like Marty, and what do you think we're supposed to think about him? How much is the film sort of condoning his actions versus judging him or blaming him for what he's doing?
I think you're supposed to like him. Like, he's not a good person. He screws over people along the way, but we're all rooting for him. Like, we have to believe that people are not irredeemable, right? So you can't, like, he's going for this ultimate goal, and he eventually learns that his bigger purpose was not what he thought, but what he got at the end, and that's his child, right? So he does redeem himself, and you're supposed to like him for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that no one who is the best at what they do in the world and no one who aspires to be the best at what they do in the world can have an actually like balanced life. Like, something's going to suffer as a result of that sort of singular focus. And so I think what Marty Supreme does sort of brilliantly is show. I mean, I think that a more sanitized version of this movie focuses on just like how much practice he puts in and his skill and whatever, right? And then like whatever unsavory characteristics he has gets like is basically texture as opposed to like the primary text of like the film. Whereas here, he's just like, it's just wreckage around, like literal dead bodies, right? Like around what he's doing. And I thought it was kind of great, right? That the movie took us there and just like and showed what like these characteristics that we have, that we value and that movies generally have valued, that the movie leans into the unflattering sides of him to make sure that if we do take to him, that we as an audience have to grapple about what that says about us.
Yeah, I agree, because I think it's both that sort of like his abrasive moments, those flashes where he's really like antagonistic or he's mean, that like there's that part of him. And also I think the fact that there are all these consequences and they're not just to him, but we get enough of a sight of it, even though for so much of the movie, especially through that like second act when he's just like, I got to get this money so I can get to Japan to do this thing, is he'll work on someone up until the point where he's like, all right, they're not useful anymore. Like, we see Gwyneth Paltrow crying through a doorway and he's like, all right, bye. And like, he's done, he's gone. We never see her again because he has no use for her anymore. And so like that wreckage isn't just like we're soaking in it, but it's there enough for us to know that like, if we're sticking by this guy, we're in a way endorsing this like sort of frivolous way that he's treating other people. But I think when you do, like Jen, like you were saying, when it's tied into that sort of that American dream component, if we're going to be dreaming big, like, and he's holding the paddle that has the American flag, it's this sort of, it's all in the game. Like, you got to try to get ahead. And so he's doing what he has to do. And it's easy to kind of root for him. And again, I think because it's in this time of like, oh, I'm supposed to really believe in this because it's the 50s. And that's shown through the lens of like the other decade when you're like, we have to believe in America, and it's morning here, and everything's great, and Gordon Gekko capitalism, with all these '80s songs that are sheened over it, and the score that has those synth pads that also keep that going. I think that it adds a distance, I think, that allows us to sort of, again, in a way that I think if they somehow transpose this to now, it would have to be very different. But it also is underlying this idea of like, is this the game that we should play? Is this what we should be rooting for? Is this the dream that we should be pursuing?
I'll go back to my recommendation algorithm. He's a pure Don Draper, right? Like Don Draper is a scumbag and he's a jerk, but you can't help but want him to succeed and to root for him in every frame. And I think that was true for me in Marty. And I do really love that feeling in a movie where you're like, still like, how is he gonna pull it out? I'm really still rooting for this guy. And he has, as Antonio alluded to, just left body after body in his wake, just, left pure carnage. I think of I'm gonna not get the character's name, but his business friend who made the orange ping pong balls, right? And just like completely destroyed his life for all that this guy believed in him. And yet you're like, but couldn't you find a little money for Marty? Come on, buddy. Like, can't we push this a little further? And so, I think, I think we're all of the age where we lived through the Walter White age of the anti-hero, and like, oh, is it an anti-hero? Is it a hero? Who should you root for this? Should you not? I viewed Marty not so much as from that anti-hero tradition. And I say this with a lot of love for my students. This is pure, I'm a 20-something who is going to change the world. And then the end of the movie is him like, oh, maybe I'm not going to change the world, right? And that to me speaks so much to a feeling I think we all feel to some degree, that, when I love when my students write me a paper in their freshman composition class at a very small school that they think might actually like change a public policy. I'm like, right, like, good job. I had a student once being like, should I just forward this to Harvard and they'll like act on it? I'm like, no, please don't forward your papers anywhere. So I do think that like there's this optimism that is very appealing, and it's a specific kind of joie de vivre you have in your 20s that then mellows. And that's when most of us kind of set more realistic goals, and usually goals that involve, not always, but often involve, a little bundle of joy, like at the very end of the movie. Right. And so I do think that felt so true to life, that it's both all of us, and it's America, and it's this really charismatic character, and it's also Timothy Chalamet, right? Like, I wanted to understand why PT was podcasting from Antonio's guest room. And it's because he walked out on Jasmine because she abandoned Chalamet train. No, I do think that like it's using his stardom in that specific way too. Like, I think a lot of us are rooting for the guy for whatever, film we first saw him in. And yet, like, I won't generalize it. I kind of, if like he got Me Too tomorrow, I'd be like, yeah, that sounds right. Right? Like, it just kind of feels like he's not as good an gee shucks, let's do that. Sorry, I think I've said that before about other people. Yeah, no.
Look, Woody Allen's still a Knicks fan, so it could happen, right?
So, to me, what the sort of like magic of Marty Mauser as a character is that you clearly can admit that everything he's doing is deplorable, and that he's so destructive and so self-centered and so overconfident, right? All these the list goes on. And yet he is a reflection of the American ethos, right? Because on the one hand, what we like about him is his moxie and his gumption, his drive, and his like, in my letterbox review, I said rugged individualism, because like when I was in college, there was this really popular poli-sci class that like tons of people who weren't even poli-sci majors took, called City Politics. And I remember the most revelatory thing that I learned in that class was the fundamental American concept of pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and how this informs all of American politics, right? All of the conflicts that we have in terms of value system come down to this idea of you can do everything yourself, and every person for themselves, and that is our charm, right? That is our charm, is that we are hustling and we are doing our thing, and we are going to dream big and make our dreams come true, even if they're totally unrealistic. And that's a distinctly American quality, and it has a bright side and a dark side to it, right? And I think I see that in Marty Mauser, where on the one hand, I'm like, oh, this guy, like, stop it. Just stop, right? Can't you just stop for a second and see what you're doing? And then, but on the other hand, you sort of see all the little references in the movie to sort of his Jewish identity and how he brings the rock back. I was going to bring this up later, but I might as well bring it up now. That the chip of the pyramid that he brings back and he gives to his mom and says, "We built this," right? And like, so the idea that like the idea of the American dream, right? That he can build a life for himself that is better. He can reach higher, but that there's, as Greg was sort of saying earlier, that's ultimately a fantasy, right? Like that it's a trap, right? That we believe that, but the system that we have in place is set up so that it's so impossible to do that, right? And so I feel like that's the thing, is like in the way that Americans, people around the world find Americans irritating and yet charming, is Marty Mauser, right? And there's just so much baked into his character, and that was probably, I didn't mention this in my short take, but that was my favorite part of the movie, is that like, yes, he's this like, it's this wild ride of a movie. Yes, he's this like character who is so ridiculous, but at the same time, there's so many layers to him that kind of reflect all of us in some way. I'm just getting nods, so I guess that means we should move on.
Well, should we all stand and say, "I am Marty Mauser"? No, I am Marty Mauser.
We're all Marty.
I think you're spot on, and that is exactly the allure of an anti-hero, is that you see yourself in them, right? There, but for the grace of God go I. Like, we have all these qualities, and I think you're right to say it's both. It's pull yourself up by your bootstraps and the house always wins. That's America, baby, right? Like, that's the end of the line. And so it's exactly right to meld those into Marty's story and help us see that for ourselves.
So I want to switch to talking about sperm.
Perfect.
Again?
It's been too long.
Because, and this actually does tie into what we were just talking about in some ways, at least my interpretation of it. But so this movie, as I mentioned, to me, this movie is very distinct because of the bookends, because of the opening scene where we cut from Marty and Rachel in the stock room. And then we cut to images of actual, like, I mean, not actual, but, well, actually, I don't know. I assume they're CG sperm. Okay.
I thought it was real.
I don't know. I didn't want to think about it too much.
I assume they're stock
In an
footage.
interview with Josh Safdie, he developed the photorealistic version and then found it too gross and backed off. It was like, oh, no. We got to do like the health class radio microscope
That's so
photography
funny.
from the 50s. So,
Okay.
yeah.
But it's all, it's this like rousing music. Remind me what the actual song is in a second. And then we see all the sperm swimming towards the egg. And it's like, oh, which one's gonna be the one that makes it in? And so I feel like it's like a metaphor. I'm already sorry. I meant to ask this in the form of a question before I shared my interpretation of it. But then at the end, we close with, the direct follow up to that opening, with Marty totally breaking down when he meets his son. Right, it's his son, his baby, and it's a chorus of babies crying. Right? Oh, like mapped onto, like spliced onto him, this emotional scene. And then I think the sperm are singing at the beginning of the movie. There's
Not literally.
a child's chorus. I mean,
Yes. So it's Forever Young from the trailer, right?
And chorus of children.
You're exactly right. That as the chorus of children comes on to sing the refrain, that's when the one sperm is joined by millions of its fellow travelers, right? It's absolutely hilarious. That's when the movie won me over. Like, I lost it just cackling with glee because it was such a stupid but like funny joke. And you're right that then in hindsight it really shapes the whole movie. But it's also just like a really funny gag to I threw this in our chat when Antonio said he took a lot of in-laws. I was like, oh no, like I'm worried about Antonio in those opening credits.
It was rough for me. But I perhaps didn't find it quite as funny. But what I liked was that it kind of announced in this sort of like crass register what this movie was going to be going forward, right? It's just like, this is where we are, right? And so I was prepared sort of for anything, if that's what we're going to start the film with. And then to go to the ending of it, I could see an argument being made that like a lesser movie leading up to a conclusion where the sort of like the breaking point for a protagonist who has just like the sharpest edges. The breaking point was a baby, right? Where that could be bad, right? But here I felt it worked for a lot of reasons, and I think mostly actually because of Timothée Chalamet's like brilliant like performance leading up to this and in this moment. Um, that it took like Marty being chastened, to go back to like the scene that we mentioned earlier, where he was sort of dressed down before that final match, getting the victory that he sort of sought, but having no one to sort of celebrate with, that brings him to this moment where this kind of like this ordinary miracle, right? Like this thing that is accessible to many, for someone who is looking to be like this singular force who can only do this one thing, like that this is what it was that could make him break, and that can make him weep. Um, to I think that what Chalamet does in that moment to convince us that the man who we've seen through the 2.5 hours leading up to this, who for a large part of it is just a con man and a narcissist, can also be the man who does this and has this like deeply human moment. Like that's the moment when I thought like, oh, he just won an Oscar. We'll talk about that later. But like that I thought it was just I for a movie that surprised me in so many ways, in a different register, for it to surprise me at the very end for a moment of tenderness, I thought was just really really such an accomplishment. What did you all think?
I cried. And I was not expecting to cry at this movie. But when you see his face and how he's just totally falling apart, it's like really hard to not feel that. It's amazing.
Yeah, and in retrospect, it makes that opening, which I did think was funny. Maybe I'm somewhere between Greg and Antonio in terms of the hilarity of the sperm chorus. But I do think that it becomes a sort of like light the fuse or ticking clock of like, he only has 9 months to do this thing that he wants to do, because this is going to upend his life in a way that, you know, through those entire 9 months, he would be like, no, I don't want that. But then once it has arrived, he's going to be like,
did you really think that? Because I will just toss in that I completely didn't think, I thought she was just going to be another person he left behind. You really felt, did you?
No, not in the moment, not when that opening thing happened. I meant once we got to the end of the movie.
I see.
I was like, oh, and really what I mean is when I was looking at Jen's outline and she was like, let's talk about sperm. And I was like, what about that sperm? And I thought about it for a couple of minutes. I was like, oh, in a way that is, you know, that's the setup for like the ticking clock of his life, because now we know, at least according to the text of the movie, once he sees his son, he's going to, you know, have a very different view of the world. Or at least that's what's implied. I also did see some commentary online that was like, countdown to how many days before Marty leaves her once the kid keeps him up at night, over under of 10 days, which maybe is fair. But at least I think in the context of the movie, we're supposed to believe that he's progressed forward and evolved. There's an interesting, I didn't want to bring this up in the recommendation algorithm, but maybe this is an okay way of saying it, because it's a weird comparison, but I don't know the degree to which any of you have read into the book or the movie making of A Clockwork Orange. This is not a good comparison necessarily, but the book of Clockwork Orange is 3 parts, 7 chapters each. And the last chapter of the 3rd part is the main character, Alex, despicable, violent, like way worse than Marty Mauser. And that's saying something because Marty Mauser is difficult. And this last chapter is basically him being like, he's got everything he wants. He has total freedom to like do all of the violence he wants. And he gets kind of bored with it and then decides he wants to go get a girlfriend and like grow up. And the author was like, oh, that's what I wanted it to be, is like, you know, this is all very bad, but like eventually people are going to grow out of this. And in America, the editor was like, no one cares about that. No one's going to buy it. And so they took that chapter out. And that's the book that Stanley Kubrick read. So the movie ends when the penultimate chapter ends, which is him getting everything he wants and being this like malevolent evil force in perpetuity going forward. And so to me, everything after the end of that last table tennis battle is the 21st chapter of A Clockwork Orange. It's sort of just like, okay, I got what I wanted. I got all these things. that isn't actually good enough, and I need to try to actually have a life. So like that, again, a weird comparison. I didn't want to bring it up because it's totally spoilers for recommendation algorithm, but I think there is something there that, you can doubt him. I still doubt Marty a little bit at the end. I don't know. But I think that's what the movie wants. And I want it to be true that he like does sort of become this new person and steps forward.
But he does, like, even though he wins the match, I feel like he knows he's never going to be a champion ping pong player, at least on the world stage, I thought, because
yes,
the commissioner of the table tennis league or ping pong league or whatever. Sorry, ping pong table tennis players out there. But I think he was pretty adamant, like, oh, you're never coming back.
I think that's right, but I think that it doesn't matter. He doesn't need that anymore because he beat the guy. Like he's like, I proved I was the best person because I beat the guy who beat me last time. I know that. I don't need the world to know that. I need to go to my girl and my baby. That's all I care about now I don't need the world. I just need my little bubble of my life.
Right. And I think that's what makes this movie so great.
It also kind of implies that the head of the table tennis league or whatever is sort of corrupt, because I feel like there's a scene where we see him like glad handling with it, and then it kind of is like, oh, he's just another Rockwell. So there's and so maybe I'm reading too much into it, but then Marty Mauser kind of that's part of his recognition where he's like, oh, I now understand kind of how the world works, and what I've been doing is like not really that smart. But
I just want to hang a lantern on the hilarity of the people who teach him how the world works is like a pen magnate and the head of the ping pong association. So like everything we've said about like, well, the powerful have it all. We're talking about like the lowest of the low powerful, right? And that just to me reinforces this idea that somebody like Marty is never going to get out of this life or ahead of it.
He's also really striving to be the most famous ping pong player in the world. So it's like that is kind of baked into the whole thing, is that like it's all these sort of smaller playing fields, but then what he really needs is this really small playing field. I have another behind the scenes thing to put out here. I got a few sprinkled in. We can maybe get later deeper into the 80s music, but the original setup of the screenplay as Safdie wrote it was the bookends of the movie were going to extend beyond what we have now. It was going to begin and end at a Tears for Fears concert in 1986 with Marty Mauser and his son and his grandchild.
I read this actually, and I actually subscribed to his theory.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was an interview with Josh Safdie. I mean, I think that it makes sense. And so the only repeated musical artist is Tears for Fears, and it's the first and last song of the movie. And so it was going to be Change from the beginning of the movie was going to lead into him remembering his story. And then Everybody Wants to Rule the World comes back to him having thought through all that and spending time with his family. So at least according to the early versions, and I don't think it got to the point where they filmed any of this, although Chalamet said he did do like a 6-hour prosthetic old age makeup scene that was filmed and then deleted, which I guess was going to be during the credits, but I don't know if we're ever going to see that. But like that, at least canonically, if we treat that as canon, he is a good father and has a relationship with his child and his grandchild. And
release the Safdie cut.
Release the Roland and Kurt.
That's good editing. I don't like that.
Yeah, that would have been too much. That feels like the cavemen and the materialists. Like we just didn't need that, Like we did. That's too far. We were already there. We didn't need it literalized.
It also speaks to, I think, from the same. It was on IndieWire. I think it was the same Safdie podcast that I read a transcription of part of it, which is like the reason there's not like. I'm sure that we can and he can, Josh Safdie as well, can come up with all these thematic reasons. But the reason there's 80s music in it is because he was listening to the Peter Gabriel song. Like that was his song where he was put on repeat while he was looking up footage of the 50s and trying to see, like, I don't know if I can do a period movie. And he was just sort of like, oh, you know what? Like, it's because I find the culture of the 50s boring. But if I put music from another time that I like over it, I'm going to find something here. And so he just built it out from there. And I think he had this like bookend reason for it in order to like justify it. And then he was just like, whatever, I'm just going to have 80s music mixed in with the diegetic 50s music, and who cares? And
it works.
It works. It's great.
That also sounds like something Marty Mauser would say. It sounds boring.
Josh Safdie did say, if you don't like Marty at the end of the movie, you don't like me. Which, interesting.
Hasib, can you expand on the theory that you feel is true? Because I think we agree. I want
The
to give
interpretation that I fully subscribe to. I think the movie, and it was something I read somewhere, and then I'm like, oh wait, I agree with this. The movie is Marty telling his son the story of his conception to his birth. And I think it makes sense to me because the dissonance of the music with the movie, but also a lot of the things that happen in this movie feel so unbelievable, where I'm like, oh, he's over exaggerating these points. And that's how a storyteller from back in the 50s would tell somebody, well, his son, wait, this happened. And yeah.
Yeah, I see that, everything you just said. And then again, if it's an 80s person telling about his younger years in the 50s, you get that kind of frenetic cocaine pacing, right? And it like totally unlocked the movie for me, that this is like I didn't know about the Tears for Fears concert. I agree with Antonio. We didn't want any of that in this.
No,
but it's so sharply done that like this is a story about the 50s told like it's somebody in the 80s. I agree that totally unlocked the movie for me.
It unlocked the movie for me too, personally. But I also agree that we don't need that Tears for Fears ending, because I feel like the ending the way it is now is much more open-ended and open for interpretation.
I also would just pull you out of I said all that stuff earlier about it being like its own world unto itself, and like being so immersive and pulling you in. I feel like having that frame narrative visualized would just pull me out of it.
I think it would have been worse in the beginning. Like it would have been like, what's happening? Huh? And especially however they would have aged up Timothée Chalamet, I don't think would have looked good. And then to jump into the shoe store like liaison, it would have been like, what's going on? I think the caveman parallel is very strong, where it's just sort of like, oh, huh? And then you can't really get like, you can't sink into this world the way that you can in the actual movie. So yeah, Josh Safdie making good choices, turning down Kevin O'Leary's vampire teeth, cutting the Tears for Fears concert. You know, he's doing good here.
The other thing I wanted to just say about the ending, in case we lose the chance to talk about it again, I thought a lot about one battle. Like I get it, one battle is great, but this whole kind of, it seems to be in the air that what we're thinking about here is like a generation that's like, well, we didn't do it, like on to the next one. And so when I guess Tears for Fears jumps in at the end and comes in with everybody wants to rule the world, it's like we're just going to do it again. And that's again the blessing and the awful curse about America, is we just keep saying like, well, maybe the next generation's got it. And we could fight American Girl versus Everyone Wants to Rule the World. It's pretty tough for credit song of the year. What, Jen? Miley Cyrus and Avatar? No, Jen, not correct.
That song's horrible. Don't
not a needle drop, because they wrote it for the movie. I think this is very important. We need to split that off.
I want to talk about Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah,
we spent a bunch of time talking about Marty and Timothée Chalamet. So her storyline is pretty full in this movie. She's not just in it for a couple scenes. Like, she's a pretty major character, and I feel like her dreaming and like a dream deferred sort of, and then like she's gonna have this comeback and then she doesn't, like, what does that add to Marty's story? Like, why is her character and her character's storyline, why is it in this movie? And did you like it, I guess, is the implied question too.
Couple points on her. I think it's kind of great that, and telling, that Marty isn't the person who sort of first detects Kay when Kay enters the film. It's the people he's with, right? And they're whispering and they're wondering and they're like, oh, is that so-and-so, right? And Marty wants to be the kind of person, I think, who elicits that kind of response, that people will like turn their heads and just be like, who is that person, right? Is that so-and-so? So I like the fact that like he likes her because other people like her or that other people respect her, and that then they forge a connection. He like forces himself into her orbit in the way that only he can, with the kind of hubris that you either find charming or you find like concerning, right? And luckily for him, she finds it charming. The other thing I want to take us to the very end, the last scene of her, because like the last scene we have of Marty is of him crying. The last scene that we have of her is of her crying, but the stakes are like totally different, right? She's crying because, presumably she got bad reviews for this play that she was in, and then her life is just going to continue on with like the husband that she has and the life that she has and whatever, right? So there are interesting parallels between the two, which is, I think, why you wanted to put these in conversation and why I think that she exists in the film. But this divergence at the end, despite the fact that the very last image that we have is quite similar, I think gives us a little bit more hope for Marty than we have for Kay.
I like it.
I also think that there's something where, we have Greg was sort of talking about this. There's sort of the brashfulness of youth of like, I could go and change the world. I think there's something about like, oh, you were someone who was famous like 20 years ago. Like, you don't mean anything to me. Like, I don't know anything about you. But between sort of, the trappings of what she has and like, when he's trying to pawn the necklace that ends up being costume, he's like, well, I got this from the neck of a millionaire. That like, he knows she is successful, but that like she achieved the thing in her world, in her sort of sphere that he wants to achieve in his sphere, literal sphere, ping pong ball, that he wants to, like, he's like, I can do that. But like, she's not happy and she's not having a good time and she doesn't get to keep it. Like, she's not still making movies. She stopped. And, she's with this guy and this guy's a jerk and she doesn't really like him and he doesn't really like her. And he's like paying for this play, but he's complaining about it. The play's not very good and she gets bad reviews. That like, I think that it doesn't click for him, but I think that it is a piece of the sort of like subtle puzzle pieces all falling into place of him being just sort of like, this is stupid. Like, I shouldn't bother. I shouldn't like make this my only thing. Like, where is it going to get me? And like, he kind of, quits while he's ahead, or at least quits while he gets the accomplishment that he wanted, or he gets to a point where he can say, okay, I knew I was the best. I don't need any more than that. I don't need everyone else to know about it. And so it does sort of feel like, I think if you were listing out all of the scenes and stuff that happens and you were like, we got to make this movie 2 hours instead of 2:20 or 2:30, that's the part you could probably take out and find some other way for him to run into the pen man. But, I do think that her presence there just gives him someone else to sort of obviously shine off of, but also kind of have a reflection on inside as he's getting to that ending pivot in his life.
But I don't think he realized it at the time, but I agree with PT that it was a way of him figuring out, I can reach the mountaintop, but will I be happy ever in my life? So, no, I agree. Yeah.
What, telling modern Americans that maybe fame isn't the end all be all? What a strange thing to do. Hey, follow me on social media, everybody. Well, so I think you've all covered the characters, so I will just throw in, I thought Gwyneth Paltrow showed up, and I can't recall the last time I saw her really show up, and I really enjoyed the performance. I think in the fandoms I circulate in, she's become a little bit of a punchline, particularly when she forgot which Marvel movie she was in and not in, which I have never blamed her for, because she shows up to like a room one afternoon in Atlanta, says 3 lines and moves on. It's fine. She doesn't know which movie that is, right? So I thought, it was a good reminder that she's not just Goop and she's not just all these other roles she's had, but that she's really an actress and is a good actress. And, I thought her scenes were really heartbreaking at times, but really fun at times. I mean, I do think maybe the phone call got a little too much play in the trailers, but was still like iconic to see him standing on the bed and her pulling up the newspaper, and then the piece they didn't give away about the orange landing in the bowl. Like that was all like really great and really charming. And like, look, this is not a crash show, but like Chalamet has made the circulation. Remember, French Dispatch, Frances McDormand is his love interest, and now Gwyneth Paltrow. Like he's racking up a good slate of on-screen conquests. So well done, Chalamet.
The other thing I'll add about the K-Stone character is that she's kind of a cautionary tale in terms of compromising. That's the thing that we haven't really talked about yet, is that, so I think it actually is really effective that they are, both of those characters are triangulated through Rockwell, right? Because she compromised and sort of like accepted his financial support to help her, right? And she's still doing it now, right? Like he's paying for the play, but with that, she kind of has to deal with all of the baggage, all of the sort of baggage that comes with that, right? And dealing with him and being subservient to him, right? It's very implied throughout the movie that like that she kind of has no power in their relationship, similar to what Rockwell tries to establish with Marty by saying you have no power here, literally hitting him with a ping pong paddle. Which I can't believe we didn't talk about that yet. I like how Antonio was like the vampire line was really like making him rethink his life and not being smacked with a ping pong paddle.
And no stunt butt. Timothy said,
"Oh, really? That's his." Yeah. Okay, well, good for him, I guess. But anyway, so I really like the parallel between the two of them, because she is sort of this cautionary tale for him, and in some ways, you want to say maybe it's unconsciously, but in the moment where he decides, no, I'm going to play to win, I'm not going to do what this other guy wants me to do for money, and so that, I'm not going to do the thing that is actually going to help me get ahead, because that's going to be undermining the integrity of what I want to be doing here, right? Of my dream. He doesn't want to compromise his dream. And she clearly did. And it hasn't really panned out for her in terms of her happiness, right? So I don't know. I think thematically she's a really vital part of the movie, because she's also very rightly like the voice of reason. Like she's the grown up, literally the grown up in the room who's like, how do you eat? Like, where do you get money from? I'm asking these very basic but important questions, and he's just like, whatever. Like, I don't think about that. And she's like, okay. So it is yeah. She serves a really important purpose in the film, I think.
I also think Safdie and whoever the casting director is has done an awesome job in this movie, because they got a bunch of people where their previous work or whatever you might know them from social media or whatever, you think about that while you're watching the movie, and it adds extra layers to it. Like Gwyneth Paltrow, like a lot of these characters, they're like mirrors to the actual people themselves. And yeah, that makes this
smart.
So
if you
much thicker.
See any interviews like on the press tour for this movie between Timothée Chalamet and Gwyneth Paltrow, it is hilariously accurate, because I watched one video that was basically them exchanging like cultural and generational references and not understanding what the other person was saying. It's so funny. And she really is like, what is that? Like, what are you talking about? And he's like, come on. And then I think he says to her at one point, like, that sounds kind of lame or boring.
Whenever Tyler also says anything in these press tours, like she's like, what are you talking about?
Right. Yeah. It's very cute.
I actually want to take that cue. Yeah, let's call it cue from Hasib. I just want to ask everybody, like, what are your favorite people in those categories? Because I had a couple that kind of shocked and surprised me. So lesser role kind of fulfilled by somebody where you thought their like presence filled in really well. Hasib, I want to hear yours first, since you brought it up the topic.
I have a couple, but my number one is Abel Ferreira. I thought he was awesome in this movie. He's made so many like New York gangster movies where I as soon as I saw him, I'm like, I know exactly what you're doing in this movie. I also marked out when I saw George Gervin.
Iceman.
And yes. If you're a basketball fan, I did not notice Kemba Walker or Tracy McGrady, but after the fact, I was like, oh, I believe it. But also my number three, and I don't want to take up too many people. from you guys, but
There's so many to choose from. You're good.
yeah,
Like we have
yeah.
we have so many more. Yeah, go ahead.
As a fellow New Yorker, Luke Manley, who is also known as Patrick Ewing, who is the son of the United States Table Tennis Association. He got famous for being in a Side Talk video after a Knicks win and being part of the Seventh Avenue mob. So as soon as I saw him, I'm like, oh, that's my guy. And the person that I hated the most, but was his father in the movie, actually, who owns all the D'Agostino supermarkets in New York. And they are the worst supermarkets in New York City. So.
Now, I believe he used to own it because he's going to close all of them because Zohran Mamdani became mayor, right?
This is factually correct. Yes. I don't think he's going anywhere.
No, he's not, but that's what he was saying because he's... there's definitely no like bar for being a good person to be in a Josh Safdie movie, but I think that's okay because they do good work. They do good performances. I want to shout out Sandra Bernhard as the neighbor. Just great to see her. I won't lie, when she pops up on the phone early because she's the one calling to be like, your mom's really sick, you got to come home. And I was like, I didn't know Sandra Bernhard was still alive. This is great. I'm really glad that Sandra Bernhard has survived to 2025. So good for her. I liked I was going to say, I will admit, I only realized this after the fact. I didn't catch it in the moment, but I do like that the assistant or like one of the other workers who's at the table tennis club is Ted Williams, not that Ted Williams, but the guy who was the homeless man who had like a really good radio voice that was like discovered on social media. Yes, the golden voice, and got given radio jobs after he had sort of had this like long stretch of time of having disorder and destitution in his life. Like I did recognize, I was like, that voice is like very familiar, but I didn't know exactly who he was. So that was great. That was a great little appearance. Antonio, did you have any small person that you were like, yes, small role?
I did not. I did not, but I because I didn't recognize these people until I just like ran an article like nervously after when Greg asked the question. So I'm not going to pretend that I did. But I will say that she was part of like the main cast. When the initial sort of cast list went up and the trailers came up of who was in the film, you were like, oh, and then Fran Drescher's name came up, which is a name that I hadn't seen in a long time, other than as like president of the Screen Actors Guild, you know, for her term. And one of the things that I liked about her character was that you never figure out why Marty hates her so much, right? It's just like a given. And there wasn't an explanation. There wasn't like a monologue about it. There wasn't anything. It was just, she's just this awful thing to him. And but Jen reminded me in the course of our conversation that he does have that nice moment with the piece of the pyramid, right? That I think is a genuine moment of like compassion toward a woman who he has no compassion for the rest of the film, that I think also shows some growth and evolution early in the film. But I thought that she was excellent in her few scenes, and in being someone that you can believe as like a mother that you would be irritated with, but also someone who like clearly loves and adores her son, right?
I can kind of understand why he was, I wouldn't say hate, but very, very annoyed with the mom, only because she was the foil to his dream big, because she was more dream realistic kind of person. And that's why I feel like he didn't have time for that. So.
But she's a hustler too, which I love.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
the first time we meet her, she's lying on the phone, like, tell him this. Yeah, it's so good.
And he uses those same tricks on other people, actually, which is like amazing.
But to Hasib's point about it dreaming small, it's like she's doing all of that to try to get him to leave his job for his uncle to come home for some reason, like just to like have him around. That's a very like seemingly overbearing mom. But I think Antonio's right. There's no like big reveal that like she did something terrible beyond just like be pretty annoying and maybe like, you know, was trying to steer him in a more realistic direction.
Mine was, and it was a double take that I did in the moment where I'm like, is that? And it's Isaac Mizrahi. The mistakes of my youth were watching Project Runway. That was my
Not a mistake.
Is that really a mistake? Yeah.
I
That's
don't
no
know.
mistake.
A lot of
That's
people
no
would-
mistake.
Okay. All right.
That's
maybe
how I
don't need
became
to.
the editor of a fashion magazine. Continue.
It's maybe spending too many hours watching Project Runway maybe is the better way to say that. But I was like, is that really? Because his face looks so familiar to me. And then I was like, I think that's. And then I looked it up. I was like, oh yeah, it is him. But he was just. He was so funny in the few moments he had as I think he's K-Stone's publicist. I want to
Mhm.
say. And
He has
was
the
hilarious.
best quote that we could use in the opening,
Okay,
involving
sure.
a vacuum.
Yes, when I was going through IMDb, I'm like, no, but you guys better not use that. So I clocked it.
I just want to. Isaac Mizrahi for me. I was in the room when Project Runway played a lot. I didn't actively watch it, so I was like, "Who is that?" And I could picture him like on a judge's panel, and I'm like going through all my wife's reality shows, which aren't that many. I'm like, "Is it Top Chef? Is that no? Is it?" Yeah, so I landed on it eventually. I just want to shout out David Mamet as the director of Gwyneth Paltrow's Bad Play is inspired, and my other favorite one. Penn Jillette as the farmer, which is just wild, absolutely wild. Probably not a case of what Hasib was actually talking about, which is like people's fame being used for that, but like just a total WTF moment of like, wait, is that the magician there? So that was my favorite.
Wait,
I
you mean
saw-
like Penn and Teller?
Correct.
Yeah.
He's the farmer.
Yeah, he's in there.
I didn't.
I saw
I
his
did not.
name.
I did not recognize him.
I saw
That's
his name in the
terrible.
opening credits, and I didn't realize he was the farmer until after the movie. And I was like, oh, I also did not realize Fred Heckinger is Gwyneth Paltrow's scene partner.
I was just about to say that because I was like,
from
nobody
Thelma
mentioned
and
him yet.
Gladiator 2 and
Oh, yeah.
other movies.
Oh, yeah. Wait.
Yeah.
Thelma.
Thelma, great movie.
Oh, yeah.
Huh. Wow. Yeah, deep bench for sure.
Good cast.
All right. I think where we have to go next, because it would be egregious not to talk about her, is Odessa Zion as Rachel. Like, she's the only one we haven't really spent any time talking about specifically. You know, I'm going to ask the same question that I asked for Kay Stone. Like, why is she in this movie? What does she contribute to the story? I also like that she also is a hustler, just like Marty.
I want other people to answer the question, but can I throw in, is she a hustler like Marty, or is she like just a failed version of Marty? Like, I mean, not that Marty's wildly successful, but like she's demonstrably worse at it, right?
Well, Hasib, let me ask you this question as a tie-in to Greg's question. Does everyone from New York on some level think they're a hustler? Because you got to hustle to succeed in this city.
I guess to a certain point, yeah, for sure. Like you gotta grind in the city. Like this whole movie is this whole New York vibe of hustling. If it's kind of like that Frank Sinatra quote: "If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere." Right? So, yeah, man. I mean, like everybody in New York, to a certain point, is like, yeah, we're trying to make it and do something bigger eventually. Which is what this movie is about.
I think there's something about like the instinct is sort of to go with it. Like if if someone's running a game, you're just sort of like, okay, like I gotta do that too. And so, you know, I don't know if she is like hustling with the same goal. Like I think, you know, like Marty has a goal and he's trying to get, that's another speech I don't think any one of us got to, which was like, I have a purpose. And you don't, and that's okay. You're just making it up as you go along. Incredible stuff. But she's willing to sort of be like, yeah, like I gotta do little obfuscations and little lies and little cover-ups to get through my day. I'm cheating on my husband, or this guy needs something. I'll help him do that. I'll get on the phone and I'll pretend I have this dog when I don't. Like, you know, so I think that like, you know, it's something between like, is she like inherently a hustler, or is it just she's just trying to get by? And you gotta hustle. You gotta do a little bit to get by.
I'm not sure she's a hustler as much as she's a New Yorker, and this is like her way to try to grind, try to get what she wants, pretty much.
Well, I think it's also like both she and Marty feel like they are trapped in the life that they were born into, and that they are willing to do whatever it takes to get out of it, right? So for her, it's painting the black eye onto her eye so that Marty will like go punch out her husband. He didn't really have to. I mean, I guess we don't know that, but like it definitely got a reaction out of him, the desired reaction, right, that she wanted. And there's some comment that Marty makes that's like, ever since we were kids, you've been trying to keep me here. It's like this, he has the same reaction to her that he does to his mom, that he's like, you can't you are going to hold me back. Even if I care about you, you're going to hold me back. And therefore, like, I'm out of here. Right. And so her hustle is trying to get him to want to stay with her. Right. And to help her escape the doldrums of this like unhappy marriage that she's in. Not all that different to Kay Stone, who like is in this loveless marriage as well. Right. So yeah, it's like she's dreaming big just as much as Marty. It's just that maybe she is not as experienced. Or you could argue that she doesn't have the full context of what happened to Marty and the dog leading up to her trying to shake down the owner of the dog. You know what I mean? Like that really was the only thing that went wrong, was that she didn't realize that the who she was dealing with.
I don't know if Marty really did either. He just, I mean, he knew they had that guy was shady.
Well, he saw the bag of money.
Well, the bag of money should have been a big tip off.
That could only mean so many things, you know?
Look, it's early January. This is our first recording of 2026. I want to be deferential because I know at least one person on the call, I think only one person on the call, has not seen this movie. But there's a little George Bailey and Mary Hatch in the two of them, about like one of them really wants to leave and go and do something big. And the other one is like, no, come. Like, this is it. Like, you and me are the thing. This is the dream. It's just us. So the movies are very different, but there is something in what you're listening to you talk about it, Jen. I was like, oh, that's a very similar story. There's a very similar dynamic between the characters.
She also is like, I could help you, you idiot. Like, why don't you just let me help you?
Well, and I want to lump those two comments together and synthesize them to the idea that I was worried when this movie began, she was going to be cast in the role, the girlfriend of the charismatic, protagonist usually gets, which is like, I'm the wet blanket that's going to remind you of your responsibilities and hold you back. If this was a music biopic, it's like the woman you leave behind to go get the girls on the road or what have you. And so I actually really liked that she stayed in the movie, and I think at times was kind of his co-equal in some of the scheming. And I actually haven't really worked through my feelings about then the end being so much more about the baby than her. Or is it? And how is that? Is that him resigning to that life of, I'll just be a shoe salesman? I don't know what a shoeman is. A shoe salesman that supports my family on my weekly commission checks. Or I mean, as PT alluded to, could he just leave in 10 days as well? But I do like that she got in on the action and almost refused to be one of those bodies that got left behind. And that worked really well. She is not an actress I knew well. I have since learned she's Pamela Adlon's daughter, and I see a lot of that relationship there. There's that energy. So I think it was Joanna Robinson said, like, now we've gotten a great actress from Pamela Adlon's loins and her fake loins on the TV show, because that's Mikey Madison played her daughter on Better Things. So very funny, but I'm excited to see what she does because I thought it was a great performance. I think looking at that relationship between Marty and Rachel, like, leads me to this question I've been pondering a little bit today. So I was looking more at some Letterboxd reviews, and I found a really weird one, and I apologize, I'm not going to be able to give it credit, but it was somebody who was enraged that they went on TikTok and saw all these people being like, I got to be just like Marty. If you got a dream, you got to grind, you got to drive for it. And that's what those people had taken away from this movie. And this person was like, are you idiots? Like, the whole message is like, you need to be a human being and you can't let the drive kind of result in that. So I guess my question to the group, and this is a soft thesis, please, without the bumper to it, is where ultimately do you think you're supposed to land on Marty's whole arc? Not just the character. I think we all established we like the character, we like that. But do you feel like this movie is much more about the drive is worthwhile, or you got to abandon the drive? Where do we land? I'm going to the New Yorker first, because you just said everybody there hustles. They're all about the grind.
Yeah, to a certain extent, everybody hustles, but I mean, like, there's definitely gray areas, right? But you know what? Let me think on that in a moment. Let's pass the baton to Antonio first.
Also, by the way, lived in New York. I'm a member of the New York Bar. But
wait,
fine.
that's right.
Wait a
That's
second,
fine.
I totally
Yeah.
forgot about that. Oops.
It's fine. Part of what I love about the movie is that, to Greg's question, is that I don't think that the movie forces us to like come to a like moral like judgment of Marty. I don't think that it's necessarily saying that like the American dream is altogether bad, or that abandoning your dreams is like and you know, whatever, succumbing to like a more common sort of like life is like the answer. I think it's just like it just made sense for the context of this character and the story that it was telling, that it's sort of this is what happened to this particular guy. And in the course of this, a lot resonated with me. But because it wasn't heavy-handed, I think because it was deft in the way that it handled all of these themes and all of these questions, it's part of what I think made it like such pleasurable viewing. And you know, for a film that can have that tender moment at the end, but also include like a pregnant woman getting shot, right? And because of the way that the film was, you know, sort of ramping up tension, I couldn't, you know, rule out the possibility that there's a dead pregnant woman in that car, right? And like that's a scary, awful thing to sort of to put in one's head, right? So I don't know. I think that there's no easy answer to that question as to what to make of the ultimate arc, except that it just like poses a bunch of questions and makes us think about America and about like the American dream in all of these ways, without providing a solid like definitive thesis. And I think that's what good art does, is it doesn't tell us what to think, it just provides us the things to think about.
I think that's fair, although I would say, well, I wouldn't say it's a definitive thesis. I do think within all of those elements that you're saying, I do think that we're not supposed to take away, you know what, you should just do whatever it is you got to do for yourself. Like just whatever helps you and whatever gets you ahead, totally fine. Be like Marty in that way. I think the web of consequences that come out from his actions leading to where things are at the end for him, you know, is not necessarily that like, oh, he was bad or he was evil, he was wrong for doing it, in the same way that those sort of golden era TV anti-heroes, your Walter Whites, your Tony Sopranos, are like, yeah, these are bad people. And like, we've been rooting for them kind of, but also we should feel bad about that. He's not at that level, but part of, I think, the sort of maturation, the sort of the turn that comes at the end for his character is less about I'm not going to dream, and less about I got to give up these sort of aspirations, and more about I guess I got to think about someone besides myself. And you know, it's not outside of the you know, tradition of male mindsets to be like, oh, a kid, that's mine. Like I have to care about this kid even more than like the woman partner who is the person who birthed the kid. But like, you know, I think there is something there about like, yeah, it was good that he had this goal and it was good that he was trying to do all this stuff, but like he should consider what's going to happen to other people. And that's a good thing. And I would like to believe the people on TikTok might get to that point. But they may be in more Act 1 Marty Mauser mindset, and they might need a little bit more time before they get to, you know, everybody wants to rule the world, Marty Mauser.
It really does feel like a stealth coming of age story in that way, because I think if you told me the premise of this movie before I saw it, I would never be like, oh, that sounds like Lady Bird, or like a, you know what I mean, like a more classic coming of age movie. But I think that the way that the arc of the story that Greg mentioned, I do think is like, and by that ending scene, as moving as it is, and as much as I cried along with Marty, I don't really think I was under the delusion that he would stop being Marty, but I think he got one step closer in that moment to realizing that stepping up doesn't mean making it big. Stepping up means taking accountability for your actions, right? And because I think throughout the movie we see him denying like, well, first of all, he tries to gaslight Rachel into being like, that's not my kid. And going into a very detailed explanation as to why, right? But then also when he's talking to Kay about he's trying to return the stolen necklace, she's like, what are you talking about? Like, you knew that you went to sell this and you found out it was not worth anything, and now you're trying to backpedal your way into some moral high ground. She sees right through him, but he holds on to the lie. You know what I mean? He has so much self-denial where he's like, no, I took this and I feel bad, right? So that's him thinking that he's kind of owning up to something, but he really isn't. Like, he's still hustling. He's still trying to con her. And I feel like by the end of the movie, we sort of see, oh, like this turn of events, him winning the game against Endo and meeting his child, that has sort of made him finally pause. Right? He's no longer playing fast and loose. This movie, in a lot of ways, to me, feels like, you know, when there's like a drum solo in a movie, or not. Sorry,
Whiplash.
a drum solo. Okay, sure. Yes, that's a good example. Like a really long drum solo that you're like, this is so propulsive, but I'm also kind of scared because I don't know when it's going to end. That's what most of this movie feels like to me when you're watching it. And that is why the final scene is so powerful, because the arc is kind of complete, because it just takes a breath. He just takes a breath. You know what I mean? He's just like, oh, this is my life. I'm not just barreling through it to get to something else. Like, this is it. So yeah, at least in terms of the character development, I think I haven't thought through what the implication of what I just said is for like the broader themes about America and post-war politics and capitalism and all that other stuff. But nationalism too. Nationalism is huge. Like, we didn't even talk about the sort of like that Rockwell is like heavily styled after Truman. Like, he looks just like Harry Truman. Anyway, but that's a whole other thing.
One word I promised a fan of the podcast I would throw in that we haven't worked in yet is Bildungsroman, right? And we're kind of skipping the rhetorical situation, but to think about like the whole goal of this movie being the kind of moral and psychological development of Marty, I think is a perfectly valid, you know, I've also heard a lot of critics use the word picaresque, right? So Bildungsroman is specifically like a novel of formation, whereas I think of picaresque as like accidental adventures, right? More Don Quixote than anything else. And so I think both of those are at work informing this. And that, to me, enriches Jen's point you're just saying, that any reading of Marty has to be a reading of America, and also has to be a reading of America in that specific time period where this is where the kind of moral soul of modern America is getting forged, for better or worse, kind of from that position of power after the World War, and seeing what is going to influence that and what is going to shape that. And I do think all of that works like really, really nicely if you think about it as all of my questions tonight, I guess, boil down to a yes and. That you are supposed to like love that he has that drive, but also see that it's purely destructive and going to ruin everything. And you've got to love that America has this drive, and you have to acknowledge that it's purely destructive in the long run. And like, I do agree, this goes back to Antonio talking about the gray areas, that when a film embraces just playing with tension instead of simple answers, like that is a transcendent work. And that's why this is going to continue to be on my mind. It's been, I think I saw it a week and a half ago, and I've thought about it all the time. I thought about it a lot when I was bored at all the other movies that have come out since that are really falling off. Sorry, Ella McKay. Sorry, The Housemaid. Sorry, We Bury the Dead. So I do think that this is just one of those films that embraces not having an easy way out, and I think that's a brilliant way to keep it relevant to this time period. Because hey, we don't have an easy way out of our current situation either.
Picaresque, also a staple of that genre, is navigating like corruption. And like there's also a class component. So that's a really good call. Now that you say that, I'm like, oh yeah, like all of that stuff maps onto this pretty well.
So friend of the pod, Ben, told me I had to work Bildungsroman, and my first response was like, don't worry about it. That's part of Jen's dissertation, I think. So she'll get there way before me. So now look, I had to pick up your Bildungsroman.
I said coming of age. That's
But you were still like, let's talk about sperm first. Let's not get to Bildungsroman.
Let's talk about sperm, baby.
I mean,
and what is more of a picaresque than one brave sperm headed up?
It really does feel like they're like, which one's gonna make it? Like, I don't know. Like the imagery is very strong.
Don't think I was picking up a theory that because the movie unlocked for Josh Safdie listening to a Peter Gabriel song, I was like, after the fact, this is an intentional reference to the Sledgehammer video, which most people don't realize when they're watching it also opens with footage of sperm heading towards an egg. It just looks like weird, like star patterns, but it's like that. That's what that is. I was like, oh, it's all a salute to Peter Gabriel and Tears for Fears, this whole movie.
Hey, now that I've monopolized too much of our time asking a silly question based on somebody on the internet reacting to somebody else on the internet, does anybody have like one last thing they want to bring up? Something we haven't gotten to, a performance, a scene, a line, a question? I think we should go around the horn and everybody should get a last bite like I just selfishly stole first. A thank you.
I just wanted to shout out the bowling lane hustling scene with Wally and Marty. They're like, I loved the movie. I had a great time with the movie. There was a small part of me that was like, what if this movie was an hour and a half of them just hustling people? It was just The Sting, but with these two guys.
I was going to say,
like,
it's a Paul
having
Newman.
more and more complex like scams on folks. Man, that would have been great. So I adored that. I love seeing them run it. I love seeing them celebrate it. I love seeing it all literally blow up in their face afterwards. So that was a great moment. We haven't talked as much about Tyler, the Creator, but he does great work in this movie. And that was a really fun. It was fun to watch them kind of fall into their characters and have all their, their storylines teased out. Their fictional storylines that they clearly they've run these scams before. I did wish they had taken the dog to the hospital first. Obviously they couldn't for plot reasons, but I was a little worried about what was going to happen with that dog after it had a bathtub fall on him, which is already rough.
Right. I was just going to shout out the filming of the table tennis scenes in particular. Right. When you think sports movie, Timothée Chalamet is not the name that like comes into your head. And like during the film, like the scene with Gwyneth Paltrow when he's like on the bed and he's like I think he's not wearing a shirt, or he's like the question was like, did he lose weight for this role? Like he looks even more lanky than normal for this. And the fact that they made table tennis as exciting as it was, and there were multiple scenes of him playing, but I was always like interested and dazzled by it in a way that I am not typically dazzled by table tennis. The one thing in my in-laws, they have a table tennis thing, and as soon as I got home, I was like, let's play. Hasib, what was yours?
Just a couple of things. PT was talking about those hustling scenes at the bowling alley. I also love Tyler in this movie. It's kind of sad that we didn't bring him up until this point, but like, I'm always wary of rock stars or rappers in movies, and I thought he knocked it out of the park. I also love that scene with the reporters where we first see Gwyneth Paltrow's character when she walks by. Actually, I thought that scene was awesome. You kind of saw like the full breadth of Marty's character there, where He's making a lot of these unsavory jokes and talking about his probably delusions or illusions of grandeur here. And then he notices a real star walk by, and he's kind of knocked down a peg. He's like, hey guys, I'm over here. I thought that scene, just the whole totality of it is just incredible.
I'm going to move us to Oscars watch because I really want to talk about it.
You don't want to talk about the honey?
No, not really.
We're not trying to get the rated R on this podcast.
All right, fine.
I mean, well, so is it what is it a metaphor for? Because clearly that's why it's in here, right?
I mean,
desperation, right?
Yeah, and you do anything that you can to survive, but also that he thinks at that time when he tells you, like, this is a funny story, you're gonna like this, but it's a story about like going like out of your way to help other people, which he does not understand at that point in the movie.
He doesn't do it at any point in the movie.
I mean, I'm projecting forward the hope that the end of the movie is him being like, oh, I should do something for someone besides myself. But yeah, that he just thinks it's kind of like, this guy smeared honey on himself.
Right.
Like, isn't that funny?
Well, yeah, the Marty version of that story would be him then selling the honey to all the other people. Or eating it all himself, like, or something, you know.
Another awesome moment we haven't shouted out that now I'm breaking my own rules and jumping back in. The montage with the Harlem Globetrotters, incredible stuff. The sea lion, the trig, like all of that, like so brilliant. And that also had Philippe Petit was one of the announcers in that scene, who is the man who without permission strung the wire between the Twin Towers and walked across that, like not Joseph Gordon-Levitt, like the actual guy, right? Who did that just has this little cameo, which I just loved.
And I also didn't know that wasn't an original Beck song for Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, but was an 80s song. So that there's something you learn.
All right. I'm chomping at the bit to talk about the Oscars chances for this film, so let's do it. I guess I should have come up with like an 80s remix of this to put over it instead.
With all the synth.
Yeah, with synth, the synth version of our red carpet song. All right, so I got to open with the sort of big award season news. Critics' Choice Awards just happened. It wasn't necessarily a huge upset because people have been talking about Timothée Chalamet as a strong contender for Best Actor, but him actually winning did seem to kind of take a lot of people by surprise. And now everyone's kind of thrown into like, oh, well, like, is he the front runner now? Like, what are we going to do with this information? And then the speech he gave was very confusing because it wasn't consistent with his like method acting as Marty Supreme that he's been doing up until this point. So like, what are your thoughts on, like, before we get to the overall Oscars picture for this film, like, what do you think about just the Timothée Chalamet part of it?
I think it's his time. I think this is it for him. I mean, I said this last year, so I'll.
Yeah, we've been down this road before.
We have been down this road before, but he did lose at the Critics' Choice Awards last year, as I recall. Right, he lost to Adrian Brody. He lost again at the Golden Globes. I think that Timmy's going to win again. Yeah, he did win SAG. Yeah, Timmy won SAG, but I think I think that at the Golden Globes this coming weekend, I think that Timmy's going to take it for the comedy part of it, the comedy side of it, right? I don't know. It just feels like, I mean, he clearly wants it. He came really close last year, and I don't know. There's just something. There's something about this role in particular where it just feels a little bit sort of like this is. To me, he feels a little bit undeniable, even in a really strong year in Best Actor and a lot of other great candidates. It just feels like his time, even though he's only 30 years old. I don't know. What do you all think?
It's a wild comp, but I did see people, because they were just sort of like, oh, Best Actor, that's usually older, you got to put in your dues. And folks were making the comparison to Marlon Brando, who won for On the Waterfront. But that was his third or fourth nomination, and this would be Tibby's third nomination. So, like, I mean, it's kind of wild to compare. I'm sure he would love it. But I think it's kind of wild to think about comparing the two of them. but there is something to, sure, he's young, but it's not like this is a breakout performance. He's been here. He's been doing this and has been, racking up these performances. And, even maybe a couple of years where folks were like, he could have been nominated for something and wasn't. So I can see that. I still don't feel like fully locked in that like, oh, it's for sure going to happen. There's part of me that just thinks like that. Will it shift to Ethan Hawke where it's like, we've got these two people who are overdue, but like Ethan Hawke's more overdue. He's much older. I don't know. I haven't seen that movie, so I don't have a strong feeling on it, but like, I also don't know the degree to which his, non-traditional campaigning is going to rankle people versus motivate them. I do think he's doing a good job of setting up all of his random appearances as I'm trying to get people Marty Supreme Christmas Day to go see it in a theater, and not necessarily I'm trying to get myself out there. I don't know what the pivot will look like once he turns to campaigning, and maybe that awkward Critics' Choice speech was the first attempt to do that. So yeah, there's a part of me that's like, maybe it's his to lose, but also it seems very possible he could lose it, like just because of the politicking around the Oscars.
So I think we saw the pivot happen at Critics' Choice. So like for listeners, when we were texting each other during Critics' Choice, and all of us, sorry, Hasib, I didn't mean to leave you out, but all of us. I know, I'm really sorry. I just realized
and you're shaming him now.
I shouldn't have brought this up at all.
Just start the solo pod right now.
I know. Sorry, he's like, I'm out. Take your paddle and go. Whoa!
Wait a second.
No, I mean like never mind.
Where are you going with this?
Which scene are you referencing, Jen?
Let's go back to no. Sorry, Jen.
Oh no! Now I lost my train of thought. So we all reacted like, what is going on with Timothée Chalamet? Like, what is this speech? Like, this seems kind of like weirdly nervous and kind of unformed. But what I realized after much later, like the next day, basically, I was like, wait, what if this is the next phase of him mirroring Marty Supreme, where like this is his version of the end of the movie, where now that we're getting serious and we're kind of shifting from promoting the movie to campaigning for an Oscar, that now he is moving towards the humbler Marty version of Marty that realizes that it's actually about thanking his partner of 3 years and the foundation that they've built together. And I was like, this is genius if this is on purpose. Like, and is like this meta game that only people who actually like the movie will. So maybe it's not a good strategy, because like me, is like I wouldn't only recognize that when I saw the movie, because I saw the movie after I saw his speech. So at the time I was like, what is this? But now that I've seen the movie, I'm like, wait, maybe he's trying to imitate the arc of Marty by now being the humble version of him or something like that. But anyway,
I'm not sure about that. Only I think he's starting to sense that there is starting to become a backlash of sorts to the whole marketing and how we might be too Chalamet oversaturated at this point. I still think he's the favorite, the leading contender for Best Actor. It feels like a lot of people on Twitter wanted Michael B. Jordan to win, and as much as I loved him in Sinners, I think it's between Leo and Timothy myself, but I think it's Timothy's award to lose at this point.
I think it's a shame this wouldn't be Leonardo DiCaprio's first. I think I was not on the Revenant Oscar flashback. Did you take away his Oscar for that film?
I don't think we did.
But like,
but I could
One
be
Battle
right.
feels like so much more
nominated?
of an important film than role.
I think we negotiated that like if we could give him an Oscar, it would be for Wolf of Wall Street, right? I kind of remember that being the consensus.
Right, but we didn't actually do that. We said that he should have won for that. This is part of the problem.
Who
With
won
the-
the year?
So the larger point being, I agree with Hasib that I still feel like they are 1 and 2, and I can't look at those two performances and give it to Leonardo DiCaprio. Like, and that's a little bit what he's asked to do, right? Like, he's a little more on the side of that film, and the very funny set pieces he does are great, but they're not difficult. Whereas like the pure range of what Chalamet is doing here, I think is just astounding. And it's like an actory performance too. So I think he would get a lot of boost from that part of the Academy, which is the largest component in the Academy. In this being a very American movie that's kind of questioning about America, I also think that will have better play with the international audience than the One Battle After Another performance will play with the international audiences. I liked, Jen, you went Galaxy Brain large on screen right in front of us. I think that's the right one, right? Where it keeps getting brighter and brighter. Either that or the Vince McMahon. I don't know what you just did trying to explain the turn, but I think it's more he knows that the big Marty Supreme speech last year when he was winning the SAG for Bob Dylan had its critics and might have come across the wrong way. So I think it's more of a correction on that than an echoing of the film.
I agree. We did keep Leo winning. We only changed the nominees. I personally, I would say if we, again, full magic wand without all of our processes, he should have won for Wolf of Wall Street or even a supporting actor for Django Unchained before, instead of that. But either way, Revenant was a decade ago. It's not crazy for him to win a second one.
No,
now,
certainly
like,
not. But I do think
later.
there's a sense of like he got
one.
We don't need to worry
I
about it.
thought he was great in The Departed, and he wasn't even nominated for that year. I think he was nominated for Blood Diamond that year.
It's because they campaigned everybody in supporting, and they voted for Mark Wahlberg instead to get nominated.
That aged well.
All you New Yorkers are talking Boston now, kid. We're here.
Dude.
Uh-oh.
Oh my God, dude.
I'll lean back.
I do think, to Hasib's point about the social media reaction, I do think there's a strong, there's a contingent of people who are like, Sinners is the only good movie and they don't like the other movies. And, it's a Black American story. And I do respect that that's where they're coming from on this. And I think they're also very prepared for it to not win enough. And so they're ready to sort of be I'm mad about this. And, that said, I could see what are we doing with Sinners? And is it possible that Michael B. Jordan is the way to go if there starts to be this softening around the idea of giving it to Chalamet? And it's we don't even know if Ethan Hawke's going to be nominated. What if it's Joel Edgerton instead? Those two are sort of coin flipping, I think, for that last spot. And there's the Brazilian guy from The Secret Agent, Wagner Moura. Everyone loves him, but I don't know if there's a strong as strong a push as it seemed maybe a month ago. I could see Michael B. Jordan getting some momentum, but I don't know. That may all be trying to figure out the way that One Battle's not going to win Best Picture, where it's just what are we doing? Timothy's going to win Best Actor, and he's going to deserve it because this movie's great and he's great in it.
Do you feel like the reaction is enough to make Marty Supreme an Oscar villain full on? Because I also was seeing all the social media reactions where people are like, Michael B. Jordan literally working twice as hard, right? Because he plays two characters. And it's not enough. And then the look on his face when Timothée Chalamet is trying to thank all of them during the speech is now become a meme, basically, of him being oh my goodness. So is that actually going to have any impact, or is that just an online thing?
I think it's just an online thing. I mean, I think that people during the award show made a joke is this even televised? Right? They weren't. I don't think that most people really care that much about that particular ceremony. I mean, we did. We were watching but I think, I don't know. I think that Marty Supreme this is the place to reward Marty Supreme. Marty Supreme, I think, is overperforming in nominations than and showing up in unexpected places. With the New York Film Critics, I think that they gave it the screenplay, their best screenplay award. And I think that I could see it getting nominations across the board. I think the one place where it's a little bit soft that surprised people and people thought maybe this movie isn't coming in quite as hot as we had thought was in supporting actress, because there's been no love for Gwyneth Paltrow or Odessa, but it's showing up in directing, in screenplay. I think it'll get, I'm not sure which of the tech awards, but I could see it getting maybe editing or something along those lines as well. But Best Actor seems the only place where it can probably win. And if they love Marty Supreme, that's the place. And it's an appropriate place, right? Because so much rides on Timothée Chalamet's performance.
My counter argument to that is that the more recent trend, right? If we think about last year with Anora, that if whoever the Best Picture winner is, which is likely to be One Battle After Another, are people just going to downvote? Like, oh, well, my Best Picture pick is One Battle After Another, so I'm just going to vote for Leo and Best Actor. You know what I mean? Like, is it going to have? Because arguably that's kind of why we saw everyone thought it was going to be Demi Moore, and then it ended up being Mikey Madison, just because the love of Honora was so much stronger than people thought, and it ended up being the Best Picture winner. So that's the only thing, and that's a pretty recent trend of like whoever's winning Best Picture just like dominates the rest of the ballot, more than the spread the wealth approach that we see in other years. But yeah, I think it would be nice if we spread the wealth a little bit.
Awards capitalism.
I just want to pitch in. I think the problem with the Michael B. Jordan is it looks too easy. He did the job too well. Like I honestly think people forget it's him in two roles doing very different characterization of two different, like, it's so stupid, but I feel like you watch that movie and there's so much and it's so effortless. You're just like, yeah, cool. Like those two guys did a great job, right? Like you don't even think about the fact it's two Michael B. Jordans. So, and that is stupid, right? But if we've learned anything from 3 years of this show, it's that the Academy voters are stupid in many cases, right?
Like we don't want to give Ray Fiennes another Oscar. He already has one.
Yeah.
He's so awesome in this movie.
And what if like people doing the screeners don't make it to the end of the movie of Marty Supreme? That's the other thing. If you, like Antonio kind of said it earlier, like if you don't watch that final scene, is that cinching an Oscar win? The movie up until the end. If you miss
they have to at least let it play now, right? Isn't that true. The rule?
They could be in the other room.
Who's checking that?
Also, I did just check online, and Adrian Brody is actually still giving his acceptance speech. Yeah. So good. Glad we rewarded that movie. We were all still definitely talking about that was worth it.
Oh, but so that's a really interesting comparison, because for him it was kind of the reverse of what we're talking about, where people were like, "Well, sure, he already won one, but it was so long ago, and the performance itself is undeniable. So why don't we give him another one?" You know what I mean? That was kind of the thinking at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But I think Timothée Chalamet is working very hard to convey to people, this is the one. If you're going to give me an Oscar, please give it to me for this movie. I think on Jimmy Fallon, he was like, I've been in so many projects that I'm extremely proud of, but this is the one, guys. Like, this is it. This is the movie that I love. Like, so...
Cut to next December. Dune Part 3, everybody. This is the best movie I've ever been a part of.
Wait, didn't he win for Wonka? That's incorrect? Okay, he didn't win for Wonka. That's my 3 hours in joke.
Of course. Wait, so what other categories do we think? We mentioned a few. Sounds like, the score. I think
would be great. I mean, I think screenplay will get a nomination. I don't think it will win.
Would it be adapted or
it's original?
It'd be original.
Yeah.
Even though it is loosely, I think it's inspired by, as opposed to based on the actual. Is it Marty Reisman?
Marty Reisman, yeah,
is the actual table tennis player, but it's probably not enough to actually make it.
To our earlier point, we don't really understand. I don't really understand how this category is going to work, but
the casting?
Best casting, it would make total sense for this movie to be nominated.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
But it does have this feeling of like, again, we've got One Battle After Another. We have Hamnet. We have Sinners. like this is clearly in the top 4 now. Like I think we had a few little like brushes with some of the international movies maybe creeping up there, but now that it's out and now people are reacting to it, it feels like no, strong. People really like this. It does seem possible that it could filter down to some things like production design, cinematography, costume. Why not? Those are old clothes.
It's a period movie. Those usually get in if they're strong contenders.
We said editing, right?
Editing.
I think every Safdie Brothers movie needs to be in editing. So,
I feel like editing, if it weren't for the Chalamet factor, I think editing is where this movie would win. If they were like, we got to give it something. But
hair and makeup, if people have heard the story that Gwyneth Paltrow was giving Timothée Chalamet skincare advice, not realizing that it was his makeup that was making his skin look terrible.
That's so funny.
I love it.
If she got makeup just for, I really thought she had a black eye.
Yeah, that was a very convincing fake black eye.
Yeah. Is there any chance that Safdie gets into director?
I think it's looking better now than it was, but it's still not a sure thing. I think DGA will have to be a big indicator for that, which I think the nominations for those come out. Yeah, it's bad.
It's such a war zone for best director. Yeah.
It depends on how many international directors make it in, because DGA lately, like, think about, people were like, oh, James Mangold actually made it in, and then he made it in an Oscar. So, and the same thing with, I think, Joseph Kosinski got in DGA but didn't make it to Oscar, right, for Top Gun Maverick.
I think that's right.
Is that correct? Yeah. But so DGA could be really interesting as both a red herring and or an actual clue about what's going to happen at the Oscars.
I mean, the 3 locks are Zhao, PTA, and Coogler, right? So that just leaves 2 other spots.
I don't
and
know.
And then Panahi is probably a lock, I would say.
Think Panahi? I am a big, like, I'm behind the whole, it was just an accident train. Like, I'm the conductor, I guess.
I also think just the story of him is going to...
Right, the narrative, yeah.
Is going to get him in there. So then it becomes...
Wouldn't it be a van? You're the driver of the van.
Yes, I'm the driver of the van.
Incredible.
But...
Okay, anyway.
I jumped in the van with he's driving in a wedding dress, and we're having a great time.
Yeah, there you go.
But the thing with me is, as much as I want to believe it's a lock, with foreign directors, especially with Iranian foreign like directors, I never assume like it's going to happen, even though he's already won a couple of awards already. So,
I mean, what about Guillermo? Is
Guillermo's always a factor? Yeah,
he's always
Frankenstein is holding strong. Like, you know what I mean? So like, I actually think
it's good.
I think
like
Coogler's
it's actually it's Frankenstein's monster is holding strong.
Thanks, Greg.
Sorry.
I actually think Coogler's not a sure thing. A lot of people are saying that he's a lock.
Really?
I don't think we can. Let's not forget Greta Gerwig. Okay, like
in my opinion, and it's not going to happen. I think Chan-wook Park's directing this year was just like,
oh yeah, I mean,
next level.
See, don't worry, we're going to be getting to the letters soon enough, and Chan-wook Park will get discussed in
my newest like galaxy brain theory is that the surprise is going to be that someone we think is safe, like let's say Ryan Coogler or Chloe Zhao, doesn't make it in. People get upset, rightly, but it's going to be like a one of the more obscure, people didn't see it coming international directors. There's always one. Maybe there'll be 2. I think Surratt is gonna because Surratt did like crazy good on the Oscar shortlists, and I think like that could sneak in weird places that we don't expect at the expense of people that we think are safe. Also, like the director of Secret Agent, I could definitely see him at this point getting in, and people being like, "What?" and then like someone gets misses because of that spot is taken. So. Get ready, folks. Like, I don't underestimate the international factor.
What's happening with sentimental value? It's crazy that like that's not really part of these conversations anymore.
Yeah, I love sentimental value.
I think it's because it's like not quite one or the other. It's too English language for people to think of it as a pure international feature, and then it's also not. You know what I mean? Like it's like it's losing in both categories.
But even in terms of director, it's like why would Surratt or secret agent jump over that.
Because the Academy's
for
weird.
the
I don't know.
future.
I
People are
said it was a
dumb.
galaxy brain theory.
It's true.
But anyway.
I think
So-
Odessa Zion? Is that her
Zion?
name?
Yeah, I think so.
She should be nominated. That's crazy. If she's not, she's really great.
I think
No.
critics were saying that SAG is like her best bet, probably. She doesn't make it in other places, that she could make it. Because she's also on the new Rachel Sennett TV show,
Mm-hmm.
I Love LA, right? Which
Yes.
I haven't seen, but all right.
I'll just remind
Any
you,
other?
instead
Just
of
remember, they're called the Actor Awards now. Don't call them the SAGs.
We don't have to acknowledge. We're not
I'll
big enough.
just
Historical
podcast to have to
precedent, you can
respect
say the SAGs, but you have to say the Actor Awards now.
as we head into the Golden Globes, I will note that there is a Safdie brothers actress nominated in Best Supporting Actress. It's Emily Blunt for The Smashing Machine, not
Okay.
Odessa Zion or Gwyneth Paltrow for Marty Supreme.
that. You mean at the Golden Globes?
Yeah, the Golden Globes.
Oh, okay.
Heading into the Golden Globes weekend.
Yeah, which is Sunday.
What a choice.
This Sunday.
It is.
Depends on when you drop this episode, but yes.
It will be
As of
it'll be
recording.
it'll be before Sunday. It'll be this week. We don't have another episode for this week already, so I gotta edit this fast. All right, I think we're good. That was very thorough, more than thorough. Antonio, you serve.
I'll serve, Jen. People, if they want to find me, they can find me on Letterboxd at Elefano, Aelefano. Hasib, where can they find you?
You can find me on Letterboxd. My name is Beeb Watches Film, or you can find me on Instagram, Hasib Posts Pictures.
Very
PT,
easy to
how about
remember.
you?
Yeah, you can find me on Letterboxd at PT McNiff, PTMCNIFF. You can also find the show there at LTR Pod. You can look for the show on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at The Long Take Review. You can email us, thelongtakereview@gmail.com, or you can subscribe, follow, add, do whatever you got to do to follow the podcast and listen to new episodes. We're in the thick of it now. It's going to be so many episodes coming up. We got this. We got the Golden Globes. We're probably going to react to that. We have the letters coming up, and that's going to be 2 episodes, folks.
PT,
Covered
what if
yet?
people don't know what the letters are? Can you quickly?
The letters are our own award show. The LTRs. We give out our awards. We talk about all these fools who are making bad choices and not knowing what to do in these different voting bodies. But what if the 4 of us made our own voting body and we gave out our own awards? We've done it twice. We're going to do it this year as well for the 3rd annual LTR Awards, aka the letters. Greg, where can folks find you?
People can find me, let's see, on Letterboxd. I'm at Ion Cannon, EYEONCANON. Proudly unlocked my stats yesterday for the new year, which means I passed 10 already. I hope you all get there soon. I do just want to throw a shout out that our beloved listeners, please make sure you're checking those Vulture Movie League standings to see how we're all doing. Hasib is here tonight because he's the front runner, and that's you earn a chair on the podcast when you're the front runner. PT currently in number 2, and I am bringing up with the bronze medal in number 3. The 3rd or number 3, you can't say both. And then later down the list, I think you can sometimes find Jen, although she also got disqualified, I think, for you put it all on Gabby's Dollhouse to win. Is that correct, Jen?
No,
And where can people find
I,
you?
I bet big on the Safdie brothers collectively. So I have Smashing Machine in my, and I have Smashing Machine and Marty Supreme. One of those is panning out so far. The other has not. So
Well, congratulations on that Golden Globe nomination for Emily.
right, that got me some points. You can find me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at Sopchakchai, SOPCHOCKCHAI, or on Letterboxd at Qui-Gon Jen. If you want to see the full list, I don't know how many it was, of themes that I picked up on in this movie, you can go check out my Marty Supreme review. Schwepp? Schwepp. I don't actually even know what that means. Can someone explain that to me?
I'm a nose.
We're
I just
approaching the
want to credit
runtime of
us
the
all
movie.
for not making many balls jokes, right? Like a lot of critics went back to like it's all about the balls. I saw that in like 10 reviews, so you know.
I mean, I did bring the balls.
The balls go out the window.
Did show balls earlier. It's true.
Yeah, I did show the balls.
Greg,
Was
you
that
fool.
what was before we started recording though?
Yeah, it was.
It's okay.
You don't want to explain the context of the okay, I guess it's better.
Oh wait, is this still recording?
Yes, we're not done yet. I might keep this in. That's the thing. You don't know.
Put this after the outro.
What? Yeah, I assumed this was cut material as soon as the eyes
sure,
rolled. So go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. It probably is.